Right, guys, it's been way too long, very long, and so long, in fact, that I think last time I was putting out content, I did not look like a modern day Eric Estrada. So it's been a while, a lot of growth, mostly in the hair department. But here we are again. I am recommitting to doing this, and we will get into that as we go. But I have this new little cool tripod thing. I'll show you guys in a bit here, but it actually can wrap around equipment. I found it in REI, and I think it's gonna work out really well for both my hobbies. I love weight training, and then I love going out in nature and getting lost, and it's a very handy way to just film. And then also I have two gym memberships. So one is at Raintree. Raintree is like your typical fitness club where perhaps videotaping there wouldn't be very welcomed, especially during times in the day where the traffic is just a little overwhelming. It's hard enough to just find the equipment you're looking for, and trying to videotape on top of that just makes for a long day, and not to mention just not a very comfortable setting for the other people there. However, I have two gyms that I belong to. So it's Raintree and then this right here. So Iron Prodigy Gym in Fort Collins. And I mean, it's I guess, if you will, a total bodybuilder gym. Chris, the owner, is actually a bodybuilder himself, so I can do all the things that I used to do at my other gym here, and it's all good. So we're gonna start filming here quite frequently, mostly lower body days. Every once in a while, come in and get some upper body work, because I use this gym for my lower body stuff, and mainly because still to this day I'm a little banged up, so I'm not squatting and deadlifting, but we have to do something, and this gym has enough tools at my disposal where I can kind of create a training plan that is pretty complete, despite the fact that I'm missing some of my favorite movements, and then also movements that I think are just very effective when it comes to building not just strength, but just overall mass in your lower body, and a few other places, as I have noticed. I'm doing direct trap work as well now too, because I am not deadlifting, and in the past deadlifting was basically all I required. So yeah, this is where we're at. We're improvising, that's for sure. And you know, just like everyone else, I definitely go through my moments where, you know, I'm discouraged, I'm frustrated, I'm not exactly happy with how things are going, and I wanted to be more transparent when it comes to that, because I think from the outside it looks like I'm just floating, making progress, having a great time, and it's not always like that. And one thing that I actually complain about this is the fact that a lot of other natural bodybuilders out there, they aren't very transparent with the masses. And I say masses because over the years, natural bodybuilding has grown quite a bit. There's people out there who, you know, they want to keep up with their favorite athletes, but quite often they're just not very receptive to that idea. And I've been a little critical of that in the past, where I'm like, you know, dude, put something out. People want to know how you're doing. People want to know what you do. People want to know more about you, right? And at the same time, it's like, am I doing enough? Am I doing my part? Am I doing what I could? Especially since I think not everyone is okay, nor should everyone shouldn't be a public figure, if you will. So I want to step up. I want to do more of this, and yeah, that's I'm recommitting to that. And I think besides the fact that I will be just filming training sessions and going through the process with you guys in more detail, one thing I definitely want to do is be a lot more transparent and take you guys through the ups, through the downs, just really be upfront with how I'm feeling, because I think it's really important for you guys to see that it's not always easy, that I lose my shit from time to time, and then I also go on hot streaks too. But it's one of those things where I guess over the years I've learned to, you know, make sure I kind of stay in the middle, never get too high, never get too low. Even when I'm doing real well, I'll check myself and I'll be like, dude, calm down. Right around the corner, there might be a slump, so handle yourself. So lower body day, let's get this going. And again, thank you for your patience, guys. Be a lot more consistent from here on. So we'll start with the warm-up. Usually for my lower body sessions, I've been doing a good deal of work with my slingshot. It's just a good way to kind of get my hips alert and ready for the task at hand. And since I spend upwards of anywhere from 4 to 7 hours, mostly seated on most days, it's something that has really come in handy. It's such a simple concept, but again, I love things that are simple but really effective. So quite a bit of this and some of my typical just baseline warm-up mobility stuff, which you will see isn't too much. We will eventually go over all that stuff and you guys can see what it's like to start a day. But typically it's a small amount of stuff, or a baseline amount of things that I do, and then if I need more, I will just tack on more to that. But you know, again, just like anything else, you want to be economical with your time and only do as much as you need to do when it comes to everything from your warm-up to your actual training. So this day was actually quite nice, and that's something about the warmer weather here right now, is that it's a little bit easier to warm up, so I don't require as much. And then if I'm good about taking frequent breaks when I am sitting down and working, I end up being rewarded at the end of the day. But sometimes it's just so hard to unglue yourself from the computer and you know, do little things like, hey, maybe I'll go clean up this here, go play with the dogs in the backyard for a while, things like that. But this was the warm-up lower body session. This is Iron Prodigy Gym. It is, I guess you would say, my my bro gym. This is where I get most of my lower body work in, because I'm not able to squat and deadlift right now. So I am doing a leg press, and I'm doing the glute ham raise as the majority of my lower body work for now. And I can probably squat and deadlift again. I just haven't been doing it because I have found I've built up some momentum with these lifts. So again, I just kind of I want to milk these, and then eventually, maybe once a powerlifting meet becomes really tempting, I'll start looking into getting in some more work on those movements. We start off with the glute ham raise because I am a very quad dominant, not just in regards to I guess what tends to do the majority of the work on my movements, but also in the sense that the attachments on my quadriceps, I think that, say I didn't lift weights and I just stuck to traditional sports, they would kind of stand out, whereas the back of my legs just looks like a bunch of guitar strings going down. So they need more work. So I'm starting my day off with glute ham raises on most days. And then one thing I've noticed is that by doing this, yeah, I go into the next movements with fatigued hamstrings, but I feel that it just makes me a little bit more aware about that area, especially with hip stability. If you have issues with your SI joint, and again, I'm always asked about this, what do you do? You know, these things can vary so much from person to person, and it's way out of my scope to be giving people advice in regards to this. So seek a professional, someone that works with strength athletes, if you do have someone like that accessible to you. But one thing is likely is that you probably suffer, you have issues with hip stability. And I know that for me, that's kind of the issue. One side is a bit more stable than the other. There's definitely some imbalances there. And by doing this before, it kind of gets me and the Mark Bell, not the slingshot, the hip circle. Hope I didn't call it that in the last video, but or in the last segment rather. These two things really help me just kind of again get reacquainted with that area. It makes me more aware of what my hips are doing. I think primarily because they're a little fatigued by the time I get to my next movements. So it's been a good thing. And then again, I want to hit this muscle group first because it's the one that needs the most attention. So again, usually I would say, yeah, my lower body in general is a standout region, but it's mostly going to be quads and to some degree glutes as well. So those things, yeah, they need to be the hamstrings. They need to be brought up along with calves. Is again, they're just very important, especially when you are dialed in and in that contest shape. They're just standout body parts if they're developed enough. So that's definitely something we're going to do our best given my genetic limitations in that area. And we're getting better at these, I think, as you will see as time goes on.
I will get a lot better at making rep 1 look making the last rep look like the first one. After that, this is something I've been doing for years. I've been taking calf intermissions just to kind of give the legs a break. I'll go and I'll do calf raises in between movements. And one thing this does, say if I have 6 sets of calves on that day, lets me break it up into 2. And by doing that, I get to work with heavier loads. So that's something that I will do throughout movements, is I'll do a lower body movement, go do some calves, and it lets me use heavier loads, which again is pretty important. It lets me progress a lot more efficiently, and then also gives my legs a little break. So did the glute ham raise, and then we moved over to this right here and got our calves in, and then after that we are going to leg press. So since I haven't been squatting and deadlifting, one thing I've been using almost exclusively for the majority of my lower body work is the hammer strength unilateral leg press. It's a funky leg press if you try to use both sides at the same time, but if you strictly do one leg at a time, you're going to find you get a lot more activation in the glute and hamstring area, which again is something that I'm looking for. And then also it's to me anyways, it feels a lot more. I'm better able to focus on things when I do them one side at a time, and you will see that's something that I do with a lot of movements. It definitely makes gym sessions a little bit longer, but it's totally worth it to me. And that's kind of been the issue, I think. If there is, because I do think my legs have progressed quite a bit, in fact, even though I'm not squatting and deadlifting, is that I'm so, I guess, specialized to this very special machine that you probably don't have one of these at one of your gyms. And what ends up happening is that, especially nowadays, I find myself more frequently on the road. It's very hard to, just whatever momentum you've built up over the course of many weeks, say you're about to enter the peak of your training cycle, where a lot of heavy loads are coming on these movements you've been really going hard on, and you have a trip of some sort where you're leaving town, leaving your own gym. That's been an issue, because in the past, if I'm trying to progress on a squat or a deadlift or some variation of those movements, a squat is a squat wherever you go. Most gyms don't have one of these machines, so that's probably been the most difficult part. However, one thing I will say is that one benefit that I have found from using machines a bit more this off season is that it takes a little longer for me to get rusty with this motor pattern, and usually, quite frequently, I can jump right back into where I left off in the training cycle and hit everything according to schedule. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, how the weight is moving is already you have no choice. And the biggest thing is I might have to warm up a little bit, but the movement essentially is always going to look the same. So even though I have, like, for example, this last week it was actually 1 week away from this movement. I believe on this day I hit PRs in this rep range, and then the very next training session, the same thing. So that's one thing about machines, is that it's a lot easier to get right back in your groove if you do go an extended period of time without doing the movement. As of right now, we are doing an upper lower split, so we do get plenty of practice when we are at home. And right now the frequency is upper lower, and I'm training 5 times a week. And the next block is going to have a little bit more volume. So because of that, we will add a 6th day, so that each day isn't necessarily longer. It's a little bit easier for me to tolerate if I just stretch it out over the course of 6 days, especially when it comes to the secondary movements. So love this machine. It's definitely just made all the difference for me in regards to helping me stay healthy. And then also, I do think come time to compete, there will definitely be some positive changes in my legs. I really think I'm probably going to keep this thing around even when a squat does become my primary movement. I think the gnarliest thing about it has been the fact that I can get into those higher rep ranges, and not necessarily have my torso be the limiting factor, my technique be the limiting factor, and it's, you know, what's getting trashed is pretty localized. It's going to be my legs. So, you know, for tomorrow's rowing, my back won't be quite as beat up, and I'll be able to feel quite fresh and ready to go. And I think I had plus work the very next day on a hammer strength high row. So yeah, a lot of machines, and I guess you could say, hey, this is looking like really bro dude, but at the same time, I think the biggest thing is, regardless of what movement you're choosing, that your training encourages progression. So I think at some point we've all ran, not all, but many of us out there, especially with the current trends in natural bodybuilding, we've ran, I guess, bro splits, if you will, you know, with you know, plenty of machines in the program, but they weren't necessarily progressive. And what I mean by that is, usually we were just looking to get in there, get really sweaty, hot, and tired, and call it a day, right? With my current program, yes, I'm using machines, but there's still a system in place. I'm still mapping out my training on a leg press, on a hammer strength high row, on those sort of things. So again, it really is about being progressive. So if you do find yourself in a situation where, you know, for whether it be equipment or just for the sake, because of health reasons such as myself, you can do certain movements, if there's something you can do and you can progress on that safely, it's definitely worth looking into. One thing I'm doing different this off season is I am actually incorporating direct trap work. Never done that before. Let's see what happens. I'm not deadlifting, so I want to make sure that area stays looking at least the way it used to. And then also, again, when you think about it, hey, you know, a deadlift, it's kind of just isometric tension on those muscles. So let's see what happens. Maybe I'll get some traps for once in my life. One free weight movement that I have been keeping in is the low incline. It's a 20-degree incline, and this was actually a really awesome PR and a wonderful spot here by my man's. He actually, usually, I can't trust people to like not spot me. I told him I was going to take the set to the house, so this was like a plus set with dumbbells, and I got 12, I think. 12 with the 120s, weighing somewhere in the mid 170s. So that's, for me, that's pretty darn good. And again, I think pretty soon here, if all goes according to plan, I will get to the point where by the end of the year, you know, I will be able to do a lot of volume work with the 120s, working in the, you know, routinely in the 9 to 12 rep range, I hope. So sometimes I kind of do that. I'll preview the cycle that's coming up, and you know, if I do my job, where I could potentially be, you know, months from now, not necessarily next training session, but months from now. So that's how things are going. We're still progressing, making pretty solid gains, I feel. We've just had to improvise. Pretty long video, but that's because I'm catching up with so much has changed, I guess, since our last time we talked. So wanted to make sure that I could bring you guys up to speed. There we go. All right, guys, bringing you up to speed with what has been going on with my off season. I still want to be an elite bodybuilder, and I'm still working on that, that's for sure. We ended an 11-month gaining phase. We are now in the middle of we're actually towards the end of a mini cut, and this is either my 7th or my 9th cardio session, which is crazy because I think last prep I did 12 or 13 cardio sessions in all. And a lot of it just has to do with the fact that I think, one, I'm a little bit more sedentary than I was last year during the actual contest prep. And then also my workloads my total volume is not as high. I actually cut it down a bit, tried to see if I could progress with that, and I did. Exciting, believe it or not. So I'm doing less work in the gym, more sedentary, and then also because it is just a mini cut, we're not trying to get into contest shape, not at all. It's one of those things where I can rush it a bit, and it's okay, and this definitely helps expedite the process. That's where we're at. We are finishing up a mini cut.
and we have about maybe 2 more weeks to go, and then it's going to be time to start the next gaining phase, second gaining phase of this off season. So time really flies, and the plan is to have a 3 to 4 year off season. That's what I say right now. We will see, but that's what's been happening so far. That's just, I guess, the basic structure of the basic shape of how this off season has evolved. In regards to the details, it hasn't been easy. I guess it's easy to just say, oh, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. But when you look a little bit closer, it's actually been quite frustrating. So when I ended my contest prep, it was one of those things where I kept so much of my strength. I think, so just to kind of give you guys an example, my best squat was like 460 during my off season. And then my, towards the end, I was still going over 400. And then my deadlift, it went from 580 to, I was still really close to 580 by the end of it. The pressing, that was like the least amount of strength I had ever lost during a contest prep when it comes to my pressing. So yeah, usually that's how it goes. Usually the movements where you are balancing a weight on a body that's just continually shrinking, so something with an eccentric first, you tend to lose strength there first. So deadlift, not so much, but the press and the squat, yes. But I maintained quite a bit. So I was very amped once the season was, the contest season was over, that, oh wow, this next phase, this gaining phase is going to be awesome because I don't have to make up a whole lot of ground just to get back to where I was. But that's not the way it never works. Things never go according to plan, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up actually, it went from a really healthy time in my training to the exact opposite. And I went from like way up here to just kind of hitting a few lows mentally. So I was very frustrated with that. And it's one of those things where, and I always have to remind myself, when I'm having a low period, it's like, hey, dude, chill, because right around the corner, you will have a hot streak. And the same thing when things are going really well, it's like, dude, chill, because you might have a slump awaiting for you, right? Some sort of misfortune could potentially happen. Anyhow, I've been having to improvise, and we've still been making some really good progress. It's just that it's not the way I typically, or I've over the recent years, I've acquired a taste for, especially the big three. So when squatting and deadlifting were out of the picture, and again, this was because of an old SI joint injury that happened in 2008. It flares up from time to time, but it was kind of my fault because I was trying to work around that, and usually I don't. Usually I just completely stop doing anything that hurts it for up to 2 to 3 weeks. Didn't do that, forced it a bit, it got worse, and it just was not letting me squat and deadlift comfortably. So we've been doing other things in order to progress, and it's actually been working out. So basically I've reacquainted myself with the leg press, and then I was a little bit worried at first because I have no hip hinge movement, but I've been doing leg press. I've been using the hammer strength unilateral leg press, and that one's awesome. Well, when you do a leg press with one leg, you're going to get a little bit more hammy, and then the range of motion is awesome, so that you actually get quite a bit of quad work in there too. But when it comes to my lower half, I'm not too worried about it. So I was like, hey, worst case, I'll just maintain my strength. But to be quite honest, I've actually progressed quite a bit in regards to size. So it just made me realize that, wow, dude, your torso was in some ways a big limiting factor in what you were able to do with those lifts. So I think from now on, we're going to keep those movements in there, and we just need to find some sort of hip hinge movement, because I don't want to look like a leg extension warrior. So that's the one thing I've learned this off season, is that I think when it comes, and again, you know this, but not until it's confirmed in your personal situation, can you like totally feel comfortable and for sure say that, yeah, a leg press, if you progress on the leg press, on the low incline dumbbell, that's what I'm doing instead of bench pressing right now, and you're going to make progress. And yeah, that's the one thing. So my programming has remained progressive. We've been getting better, and it's showing in my physique. Small amounts, but it's showing, and that's just because obviously I don't grow at a very, I don't improve at a very fast rate nowadays anymore. But that's where we are at. Definitely making some lemonade, as they say, and it's been working out. And again, that's one thing that anyone can have an awesome day, awesome time when this is fun and predictable. But when things happen and you have to adjust and you have to adapt, that's when you really find out what you're made of, if you will. But that's my report. We are doing what we can with training. It's still progressive. Ending this mini cut, and pretty soon here we're going to start gaining again, and hopefully we will do so for another 10 to 12 months and get as high as maybe 190. We will see, and yeah, go from there. But you know, things are all in all, they're going well, but a lot of it was not. It's going well, but we definitely have had to make some changes here and there so that we can actually say that, yeah, it's been going well. But that's it. I'll leave it there, and more training tomorrow. And actually I have a few things in my life which I think for the most part can be pretty routine, that are going to be just a little different from my everyday stuff. So stay tuned for that.